This is a Pele Media podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to Goonies Minute. Goonies Minute is a fan podcast where we chronicle and overanalyze and explore the 1985 classic film Goonies minute by minute. I'm your host, Brady.
And this is Chris.
And we are here today to cover minute number 6. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing great, and we have actually the coldest day of the year so far.
Seriously
here
is.
in Baton Rouge. Another dreary day.
Another one. Okay, so we're only 6 minutes into this thing, but it seems like so far every episode that we've had, we've started off talking about the weather, and it is never good. It's always so nasty outside.
Well, it's like the gods know that we must be doing a podcast about the Goonies.
No, absolutely, I guess. So, all right, before we discuss the minute, we'll go ahead and do the minute breakdown. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
In the previous minute, we met Mikey and Brand Walsh. Mikey was talking about his disappointment in being forced to relocate to a new town. At 6 minutes, Mikey has jumped on top of Brand's bench press and thanks Brand for understanding. At 6 minutes and 10 seconds, Brand quickly raises the bench press, throwing Mikey into the air. At 6 minutes and 15 seconds, Brand pushes Mikey over and calls him an adopted wuss. At 6 minutes and 23 seconds, Brand has walked downstairs to see who is banging at the door. He says, "Oh great, it's Mouth." At 6 minutes and 25 seconds, Mikey opens the door for Mouth. Mouth walks in and starts doing impressions to lighten the mood. At 6 minutes and 35 seconds, Mouth repeatedly asks, "What's going down, guys? What is this, a nuclear Saturday or something?" At 6 minutes and 45 seconds, Mouth says, "We should be doing something. This is our last Goonie weekend together." And at 6 minutes and 50 seconds, after explaining how great the weekend could have been, Mouth leans over to Brand to explain to him why it's a nuclear Saturday. And thus ends minute number 6 of the Goonies.
Yeah, one of the things that, we ended the last minute where Mikey walks over and Brand is lifting weights, doing a bench press, and he jumps on him, and they have that another moment of, I guess, the reality of what's about to happen. Mm-hmm. And he pushes the weight bench down, or the weight bar down on Brandt's chest. Yeah. And it's a moment where Brandt goes from being, the kind of brute brother and, insensitive brother to, hey, I know you're going to miss a house.
Yeah.
So it's another moment, and you can tell where there's a connection there.
Yeah. When
they can cut through the older brother, little brother thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No,
they
absolutely.
have that connection.
And it's believable. I believe it. Their relationship is very believable.
And another thing I want to tell you, when he lifts the bar back up,
yeah,
it's you're again, the camera is from Mikey's room, and in the foreground you see that blurred skull again.
That skull, yeah.
It's not the focal point, but it's
still
a main point.
Pirate imagery, and whenever I see skulls or skeletons, I think pirates. So it's just we keep getting that theme,
right?
Just throwing back at us subtly.
In the last minute, when he was walking in that room, you saw that skull, blurred. And then when he lifts him back up, you see that skull.
That's right.
And then when you hear the knock at the door with the Mouth being there, you see Brandt throw Mikey kind of back, and then he walks out through Mikey's room to go to the door. You see the skull again.
That's right.
So it's really interesting. And you wanted to say something about a line that is said in there that pretty interesting.
He says, he calls him an adopted wuss. And,
this is something I hadn't even caught.
I know. I hadn't caught it until I was getting ready for this. Do they ever go back to that?
The
adoption thing?
They don't.
That's so weird. I know it's probably something there to give Mikey a little bit more of an edge, to separate him from the entire situation and everybody else around him. But it's still you'd think they would go back to it at least one more time.
Is it meant to be an insult? Or is it meant to, is it meant to be actually real and then also an insult?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously it would be an insult right here because he's, throwing him around, Brandt's throwing Mikey around. But I don't know. Well, first of all, there's, to be adopted isn't anything that's not an insult at all. Now, granted, in the case of the scene, I guess that's what they were intending.
They're trying to make it. And here's the thing, it's not an insult at all, but I guess at that age, maybe if that were, if that's, it could be taken that way.
Yeah, he might
from
be sensitive to
it. That age, maybe it is. But I don't know. I would think, but the fact that nothing else was made of it the rest of
Yeah,
the movie,
it's strange.
you would think that maybe that's just happened to be a line. You know, happened to be a line of just trying to insult him a little bit, and that's it.
Yeah, and there's other things like that too that could use a little bit more expanding on that come into play later, like when. Well, you know what? We'll get to it later, later on in the movie. But I'll
on in the movie.
There you go. So speaking of that skull that was in the foreground that you talked about, we do very subtly get recurring kind of pirate imagery and things like that throughout this movie. Whenever they all go downstairs into the living room, there is one of those like pirate ship bottles. You know what I'm talking about? It might be on top of the TV or something like that, but it's this big glass bottle.
Message in a bottle type thing.
And there's a like a pirate ship in it. Which I had never noticed until
and then
now.
the couch.
And then the the upholstery. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. That
it's right in your
that
face.
pirate ship right there, it looks exactly like
Yeah.
the One-Eyed Willie's ship.
All right. This is kind of on topic, I guess. So here in Baton Rouge, there is what's almost an abandoned mall. It's got like maybe 3 stores open in it, and it's Cortana Mall. Did you ever go there?
I was there my entire childhood.
Well,
it's unbelievable how abandoned it's become. I probably hadn't been there in 5 years, but
Dude,
or maybe longer. But when's the last time you've been?
I can't remember what I was doing there, but it was like a couple of months ago. You could drop anything in the place and hear it echo throughout the like entire place. Well, all right. So anyway, in that mall was a Piccadilly restaurant.
Yes.
Yeah, it was huge. And but they had a theming going on in it like you were inside of a ship.
Absolutely.
You remember that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And this upholstery that's on their couch, I remember there being some like I guess wallpaper or something like that looks like that. But they had this theme that you were inside of a ship, and it was really cool.
I remember that.
You remember
I haven't
that?
thought about that.
I just remember as a kid thinking I was in like a pirate ship.
Right.
It was so interesting. But the upholstery on his couch that Mikey's sitting on, I remember that being all over that restaurant. It always takes me back to that. So.
Absolutely. One of the things that, and going back a couple seconds, you see Mouth when he's at the door. He's got the comb.
He's brushing his hair, yeah.
You know, he's always concerned about the way he looked.
It's just such a cool little touch that you would give someone a character who has an ego, kind of like Mouth does. So he would always be worried about his hair, the way he looks.
Right.
So it's a neat little touch.
Okay, of course, he has the Pepsi can in his hand. And again, when he's talking a lot about, hey, this is our, last weekend together, we need to do this and that. He's got that Pepsi can is, again, a focal point of the scene there. It's so interesting, the paid product placement in some of these movies. I'm always fascinated by that. I don't know why I look for that, but I think it's really interesting.
Does it take you out of it?
No, because I'm not going to, let me put it this way. The first time I look at it, I might notice something, but then as I see the movie more than once, maybe I notice it more. You know, but I definitely notice it, but I don't think it takes me out of it because it's usually just a one boom. Okay,
yeah,
kind of like there's Coke in Ghostbusters. There's Coke in the refrigerator at Ghostbusters. You know, the Stay Puft.
Yeah, product placement never really takes me out of it.
It doesn't. It's just interesting. I find it more interesting.
I find it more interesting because it's a part of this world. I believe this world that we're watching right now because there's things in it that I'm familiar with.
I'll tell you what I don't like is when I see a popular product and it's made completely generic. I would rather, honestly, you know, when it's, I can't think of anything right off the bat, but like maybe you'll see a can of soda that's red, but
and
it's
it just
not
says
Coke,
soda on it, or something.
or it doesn't, or it's just a plain because you can tell that they've, taken out the Coke part where it's written. Like I would rather it real.
That always bothers me too. When you see stuff, they're trying to match a certain color of like a famous product or something, like a fast food bag that's got the McDonald's colors or something.
So
like that.
I totally like anything that's more realistic. I like. I just find it interesting more than anything with the paid product placement.
Yeah. Well, did you see his shirt that he's wearing? The Purple Rain?
That's what you had told me that before. And
Mikey has a Prince poster on his wall.
In his wall, right behind his bed. Right, exactly. It's really interesting. But another thing I want to talk about is this is our last weekend together. Why does it have to be their last weekend together? I mean, just because, like, I wish they would have mentioned, hey, we're moving to Washington. We're moving to California. We're moving here. This is the place we're moving. And is it everybody moving? Is it just them in that house? It's like, or is it just not even matter?
Data, it probably doesn't matter. Data mentions that his family's moving to Detroit. So like
Right.
that one statement might apply to that might be there to say
Yeah,
like they're
that's
all spreading out, but
But the way it comes across at that point is that they're going to lose a house, and for some reason they're never going to be together.
well, I'm sure that's how these kids saw it.
Probably so.
That's probably how they imagine.
But I just find that interesting. It's like maybe
Yeah.
it would be neat to see like what the plans where everybody was.
Yeah,
gonna be.
that would be. That really would be. So somewhere else in the living room, it's kind of like right over where Brand is sitting. Over his shoulder is a hand puppet, just like sitting in their living room. I mean, I guess it's a bunch of kids living in the house, so
Yeah,
it makes sense that'd be laying around.
Yeah, I had plenty of hand puppets laying around in my house when I was with all my friends. That's what you do.
That's what you do.
Play with some hand puppets every once in a while. It's a lot of fun. The last thing is Mikey and Brant are depressed because it's their last weekend, and Mouth handles the idea that it's their last weekend in a different way. He's like, come on, guys, it's our last week. Let's do something. Let's do something. And to me, it's kind of like two different ways of, you can either be depressed and be down about it, which is kind of the Mikey thing, but then again, they're the ones losing the house, and nobody talked about Mouth losing his house.
Yeah, that's right.
And Mouth wants to just let's go celebrate, and I understand. And I tell you, that's the best way to handle it.
You know what? Yeah, and he's right. There's a scene later on in the movie when he has his coin, and he's like, "I'm taking it all, taking them all back and everything." Mouth might be a kid who's in a situation, who's being faced with all this and in complete denial, and he's like,
Yeah.
"You know what? Hey, it's a party. Let's all have a good time, guys. It's our last weekend. Why are y'all down in the dumps?" And then when he's down there in he might have this realization that I
that's
might
true.
not survive this one, and two, it's all this is just blown to hell. I am going to lose my house. I am going to lose my life, my friends, all this stuff. So here I am. I'm taking it. All these opportunities that I gave back.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
If that's all that you have, it's all that I have. So why don't we go ahead and get out of here?
That's it. All I got this week, Brady.
Sounds good. Well, look, next week we are going to have Crystal Beth on. And for anybody who's familiar with Movies by Minutes, you are definitely familiar with her. She's been on just about every Movies by Minute show so far. So yeah, definitely be sure to come back with us next week for that. And in the meantime, we are here to remind you that Goonies never say die. Goonies Minute is a fan-supported podcast. If you like the show, then leave us a review on iTunes. You can find us at GooniesMinute.com, Facebook.com/GooniesMinute, Twitter.com/GooniesMinute, and at Instagram @GooniesMinute. You can contact us at GooniesMinute@gmail.com. You've been listening to a Pele Media podcast. For premium content and exclusive podcasts, visit us at patreon.com/Pele Media. Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Pele Media and follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/Pele Media.